Osama Bin Laden, the world's most wanted man, is killed inside this compound in Pakistan by US Special Forces.
I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama Bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda, and a terrorist who's responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children.
As America celebrates his death, its embassies are placed on high alert.
You're watching a BBC News special with Tim Wilcox and me, Karen Giannoni. Bin Laden was found in this compound near a military academy north of Islamabad. What did Pakistan know?
American officials say Bin Laden's body has already been buried at sea. Can his Al-Qaeda network now survive without him?
Now, let's tell you that Osama Bin Laden, founder of Al-Qaeda, of course, killed by American Special Forces in Pakistan. The news announced by President Obama at the White House in a late-night, dramatic late-night address to the nation. He said that the CIA had been tracking the Al-Qaeda leader down to a high-walled mansion in a garrison town north of Islamabad. Well, our New York correspondent Laura Trevelyan has been spending the last few hours at Ground Zero in New York and gauging reaction from some families who lost loved ones in the 9/11 attacks, gauging their reaction to the news that Osama Bin Laden is dead.
Welcome to Ground Zero at New York, where already on their way to work, commuters have been placing flowers on the fence behind me in memory of the 2,752 people who perished here on September the 11th. I'm joined now by Charles Wolfe, whose British wife Catherine was killed that day, and also by Joe Daniels, the president of the 9/11 Memorial and Museum. Thank you both for joining us. Charles, if I could ask you, I know nothing can bring your wife Catherine back, but is this at least a form of justice?
Oh yes, it is a form of justice, and I like the fact that we did it. As much as I appreciate all the help from the other allies like Britain and everybody else that's helping, there's an immense degree of satisfaction in my heart that it was Americans that went in there and that Americans looked him in the eye and said, "We know who you are," and then shot him twice in the head, ID'd his DNA, and dumped his body in the ocean.
And when you first heard the news last night, what went through your mind?
You know something? I just got wow. And then I didn't have anybody to share it with until I got in a taxi to go up for an interview with CBS. And I just blurted out, I said, "Did you hear the news?" And he said, "What?" I says, "They got Osama Bin Laden." And he says, "You're kidding me." And then we both started getting excited. And then my body was tingling for like an hour or two after that. It was just, I'm happy. I feel a great deal of satisfaction.
Joe Daniels, you're the president of the memorial and the museum that's being built here behind us. It's going to open in 132 days' time. What are your reflections on the meaning of this?
You know, it's absolutely incredible. The world is going to come together on the 10th anniversary when we open this memorial for everybody. And to be there on that day and to know that Osama Bin Laden has been taken out, has been killed, it's a tremendous step forward, and it makes me think of the brave men who did this on behalf of the United States. It makes me think of the first responders, the more than 400 that died on 9/11 who rushed into the buildings to save others. They are united in their bond with each other, and it really unites the public behind them.
And we can see that here. I mean, people are coming here this morning, aren't they? This is the place that people want to be to reflect on the fact that Osama Bin Laden has been captured and killed.
You know, the positive legacy of 9/11 is the bonds between us. Right after the towers were attacked, the spontaneous vigils, people pouring out into the streets to be with one another, to be with their neighbors, loved ones, and total strangers. We're seeing that again right now, people coming out into the streets to be together with one another, and we're going to see it again on the 10th anniversary.
Charles, elected officials are saying that they hope the capturing and killing of Bin Laden will bring closure to relatives like yourselves who lost their loved ones. Do you feel any sense of closure?
Closure to me, the only way you can have closure, in my opinion, is if you lost your memory of the event. Okay, it provides satisfaction to me, but then everybody grieves differently. Okay, and I can only speak for myself. Every other 9/11 family member, and I've worked with so many of them, we understand that everybody grieves differently, and so I don't know that closure is the right word. I think that's the word that people use, but what I feel is it's because your family, your loved one will never come back. And maybe closure is when you join them in heaven. Okay, maybe that's closure, when you're back together again. okay? But I think that what this does is this provides us with a degree that, hey, we got sucker punched by this thing. And now we got the guy, we got their iconic spiritual head. That's what I'm talking about.
And Joe, do you think in some sense that American national pride that was so damaged after September the 11th, that people here seem to be feeling that pride has been restored to some degree by the killing of bin Laden?
You know, it's definitely part of the story, but it's also part of the story, the global unity. 92 different nations lost people on that day. I think about, 67 British subjects lost their lives. This was a global event. This was an attack on people around the world who treasure freedom and treasure democracy. So this coming together, it's not just America, it's those people, it's all of us that came together after 9/11, and it's an incredibly proud moment for all of us.
Joe Daniels, the president of the 9/11 memorial that's going up behind us here at Ground Zero, and Charles Wolfe, who lost his British wife Catherine on September the 11th. Thank you very much indeed for joining us with your reflections on this day when Osama Bin Laden has been captured and killed. That's the mood here at Ground Zero in New York.
Laura Trevelyan there in New York. Just to remind you of that breaking news that we've been getting from New York, from the United Nations. We understand that UN Chief Ban Ki-moon has been speaking about the death of Osama bin Laden. He has welcomed the announcement and said that this is a watershed in the fight against terrorism.
The death of Osama bin Laden, announced by President Obama last night, is a watershed moment in our common global fight against terrorism. The crimes of Al-Qaeda touched most continents, bringing tragedy and loss of life to thousands of men, women, and children. The United Nations condemns in the strongest possible terms the terrorism in all its forms, regardless of its purpose and wherever it is committed. This is a day to remember the victims and families of victims here in the United States and everywhere in the world. United Nations will continue to fight against terrorism and will lead this campaign to fight against terrorism. I remember personally, vividly, the day of September 11, 2001. I was in New York on that dark day, and United Nations is committed to continue to lead this campaign with world leaders to fight against international terrorism.
UN Chief there, Ban Ki-moon. Well, Lawrence Korb is a former US Assistant Secretary for Defense, more recently an advisor to President Obama, and he joins me now from our Washington, D.C. studio. Thank you very much for joining us. Do you agree with Ban Ki-moon? Is this a watershed moment?
It certainly is. Since you mentioned the campaign, remember in the campaign we said if we have information about al-Qaeda and its leaders and the Pakistani government won't take action, we did. President Obama was criticized both by his Democratic opponents and Senator McCain in the campaign for asking for this, and I think this vindicates his strategy.
Why did President Obama choose to kill Osama bin Laden and not take him captive and put him on trial?
Well, obviously, from what I understand, he did resist. But it's certainly better that we don't have to go through this mess with Guantanamo. I mean, where would we put him? We're not allowed to put any more prisoners there. The whole question about where we would, would be trying him. You've seen the problems we've had with Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. So I think even though I hope they didn't kill him on purpose, even though that he was killed for resisting, this works out better for the United States and the world. And burying him at sea keeps the people from setting up a shrine that people might use to rally more people to that cause. Are
you surprised that he was found living in relative luxury in Pakistan, not in a cave in Afghanistan?
Yeah, I think everybody was surprised about that. And in fact, if you look, that's very clever on his part, since we all thought he was up there in the cave and looking for him, and, with the drone attacks, and there he's living, 100 miles from the capital of Pakistan in a very, very nice area of the country.
Pakistan has always denied that they harbored Osama bin Laden. Do you think this now damages the relationship between Washington and Islamabad?
No, I don't think so, because I think what happened, it's a win-win for everybody. We got him. and the Pakistanis were not involved in it because, you know, the government might have had problems with some of the, you know, the people in their country, these extreme religious people. So basically they're happy, we're happy, and it's a win-win for everybody.
The fact that they were not involved, though, does that not hint at a fundamental lack of trust between the two countries?
Well, I think there's no doubt about the fact that you can go back to the, you know, back to the 70s when President Carter put them, you know, on the list of not being democratic after they had helped President Nixon go to China. Then, of course, we ignored them after we got rid of the Soviets in Afghanistan. Again, we stopped giving them aid and assistance when they had a nuclear weapon. Then we came to them after 2001. So it's understandable why they have this ambivalent feeling about the United States.
Do you expect that there will be a call from the American people now to change the strategy in Afghanistan now that Osama bin Laden is dead?
Yeah, I think so. I think people are going to say, well, what is it we're trying to accomplish there? Because, again, people forget President Bush told the Taliban, whom he had dealt with before, if you turn over bin Laden, we have no, you know, fight with you. Now that we have him, I also think the Taliban will be much more willing to negotiate because now we don't have to put the preconditions that you can't, you know, give hospitality to bin Laden.
So do you think we will see a change in strategy from the Obama administration and how they act in Afghanistan?
Well, I think what you'll see is probably a more significant withdrawal beginning this summer than people realized. And basically, also, I think you might see the start of negotiations sometime this fall, because when I was in Afghanistan in November, the Taliban indicated they didn't want to negotiate till we start moving out. I also think it's critical for us not to stay in Iraq because they won't trust us if we promise to get out eventually of Afghanistan.
Finally, we've been hearing today from right across the world the fear of reprisal attacks. But is it your long-term hope that the death of Osama bin Laden will actually erode the appeal of al-Qaeda in the long term?
Well, I think in the long term it will, because he has become more than just another leader like Zarqawi, Zawahiri. I mean, basically, he has become to the movement almost, you know, what the Pope is to Catholics, for example.
Lawrence Korb, thank you very much for joining us from Washington.
Thank you for having me.
The Afghan President Hamid Karzai has said the killing of the al-Qaeda leader in Pakistan proved Kabul's long-standing position that the war on terror was not rooted in Afghanistan. Let's take you to Kabul now, where we can talk to Ahmed Wali Massoud, the brother of Ahmed Shah Massoud, a leader of the Northern Alliance who was killed by al-Qaeda in September 2001. Thank you very much for joining us. It was Osama bin Laden that ordered the hit on your brother all those years ago. I can imagine today being rather emotional for you. What was your reaction when you heard that he'd been killed?